from Southern California, this is The Ryan Ries Show. Post your questions using @Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Are you ready?
All right, it is going down tonight. I got my good friend, my brother, my homie, my dog, Sonny Sandoval, the lead singer from the band P.O.D. and co-founder of the Whosoevers. Sonny, dude, it's been a long time since you've been on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were on when we first started.
Yeah, over at the other studio.
Over at K-Wave.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Dude, it's been, actually, we were on the radio about a month ago, and they said that was our 6th year of being on.
Oh, wow.
Is that gnarly? Time flies.
Seems like you just started this thing like
I know.
yesterday.
I know, it's crazy. We and Sean were tripping out. They were telling us it's like the anniversary, and we just can't believe what God's done over the years. It started with one station, and now it's on over 100, and it's just cool to see. And people are still calling us up and like, hey, we want to pick you up over here or pick you up over there. And it's just been cool because it's been a show that disciples people. Love having for people on the show like tastemakers and cultures, like someone like yourself. Like you're out in the mainstream, you're a band, you've been doing it forever, but yet you're a believer and you're just living the Great Commission where God has you. Because a lot of people think if you become a Christian, you have to become a pastor or an evangelist or work in the church to actually do ministry. But what I love about our relationship, and our relationship goes way back, and you've obviously you've been a big influence in my life. You know, it's in the book. You know, talking about how you've impacted my life and stuff. Yeah. But it's been cool just to watch your life and how you've just been living for Christ in the world, not of it, but really doing the messy ministry of Christ. And you know, tell the listeners basically how you even, you know, just a rough overview how you got into the band, because I want to talk about how you got into the band and the purpose, and then just how God's been using you and everything you've been working on ever since to bring you up to now. It's
a long story, but I wasn't raised Christian, you know what I mean, but always had respect for God. God he's woven into my family line, you know what I mean? The old my grandmother from Italy, Catholic, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just I've always had a respect for God. I just didn't know him, you know, and then God just started to pick off people one at a time in my family, and it was real, you know, coming from a broken family and seen a lot of things and just neighborhood stuff. God was he was constant, you know what I mean, and he became real. It wasn't just hearing a story about him or, you know, going to Sunday school. I started to see him become real in my family's life. And then when my mom was diagnosed with leukemia, and she would, you know, soon after go to be with the Lord, I watched her just praise God through all that. And that was
like basically as she's about to pass away.
Yeah, she knew she was going to die.
You knew it was real at that point.
And then it was like, dude, anybody at that point would just lose themselves, you know, but she felt more in love with God, you know, with Jesus. And so that was real to me. And so, you know, pretty much on her dying bed, it was like, okay, I need to make a decision. What am I going to do? And at the time, I think it was more just for her, you know, she wanted me to know her Jesus. So I think at the time it was more like, okay, Lord, if she goes, you know, we need to settle some scores, you know? So I pretty much asked Jesus to come into my life the same day my mom passed away, you know, in the parking lot of this hospital. And then I went and whispered into her ear and I said, go be with Jesus. And it wasn't much after that she took her last breath. So from that point on, it was like, okay, I was 19 at the time, still trying to grow up.
That's a young, you know, looking back at being 19 and losing your mom, that's a pretty gnarly age to, I mean, at any age to lose your mom, but you're in that 19, you're just leaving high school trying to figure things out.
Still kind of getting into trouble a little bit.
You want to bounce ideas back off your mom, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So that must.
I mean, at the time, I thought I was grown and knew it all. You know what I mean? But you look back and you're like, oh yeah, really was kind of lost at the time. You know, but you know, at that point, it was like, okay, when she passed, it was like, okay, I'm serious about this. I want to know this Jesus that my mom knew. And so really just started to read my Bible and go to church and try to give up things that were in my life at the time that I knew probably wasn't good for me, but it was just a relationship, and at that time, my cousin, he's still in my band, the drummer Wav and Marcos, they were in another thrash band. I used to go to parties with them and where they'd play, and they would, they were Christians, but they had asked me to join the band, which was far left for me, wasn't something I ever planned or even liked doing at the time. I don't like being in front of cameras, or I'm not really about the me show.
You're like low key.
Yeah, but when they first asked me, I kind of laughed. I thought it was a joke, and but then some things happened, where but before that, I really did just ask God. I said, I just want you to use my life, whatever that means. Here I am falling in love with Jesus and knowing, starting to learn what it means to walk with God, and then the next step is whatever you see, God, whatever's good in me, use it.
How'd you know that was the call from God? Because a lot of people ask, because people want to know when they give their life to Christ, the whole thing is they want to know what that call is. How do I know I'm in God's will?
Yeah.
How do I know that God's calling me to something? Like, how'd you know that it was?
I think for me, even at the time, it's not yet more. I knew that it was all new, and I should just be quiet and sit at God's feet and just kind of soak it all in. So that's what I did, and then in the same time was just more or less learning how to live, knowing that my mom's not here anymore too. You know what I mean? So it was still processing all of that.
So you were getting discipled, basically, just kind of learning who Christ was.
I mean, I was working. I was kind of just walking.
Yeah.
And at the time, I knew. Like I said, it was nothing that I wanted to do, be in this band, but I was praying about it, and at the time I had taken some time off work and went to do landscaping with my uncle up at In-N-Out Burger up in Fresno, and the Wednesday night came and we were like, oh, let's set up a Bible study. We went to the local Calvary Chapel, Fresno, and there was nobody there, and at the time, here I am praying about, dude, am I supposed to be in this band? Like, what's going on? And then we're inside the church, and then two guys walk in, and it was the drummer and the bass player for this band called The Crucified. And at the time, I don't know Christian music. I still don't know Christian music. You know what I mean? But I knew The Crucified. They were playing opening up for like Pantera. They were doing all kinds of. They were in the world.
That's sick.
Yeah, and I knew of them from.
I didn't know that.
From just going. I mean, they were Christians, but it was more. It was a scene at the time that. Because they were awesome, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were drawing people that weren't saved.
Yeah.
And I had seen them a few times in concert, and I was always kind of mesmerized by them, just how bold they were about their faith. And so here I am at this Fresno Calvary Chapel praying, what I'm supposed to do, and then here walks in these two guys, and then we end up talking with them, and then it was just like, it just felt like that was confirmation. And then my cousin and I went back to the motel after that before work, and then we started writing lyrics for the first song.
That's
so I just kind of, and again, it goes back to my story even beforehand. I was at a Crucified concert when my mom was back into the hospital, and right before she passed away. And so it's more to the story, but it was
all those
God.
Divine appointments.
It's almost like there's just, we talk about signs and wonders. There's these things where God, I might not have figured out unless these things happen, and it was just kind of obvious that this was a coincidence.
That's what I call, moving, how God works supernatural, just in the natural realm. It just seems so natural the way it's all laid out, but God's behind the scenes,
right.
And he's the divine chess player, and he's like putting the pieces together.
And I like when that works that way for me, because we're too busy trying to figure things out. And like, where are you, Lord? And God's like, dude, didn't you see all these things I'm putting in your path,
It's so true. We could complicate things so much. And God, what are you trying to say? And he's just like, dude, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm showing you.
Yeah.
And that's just convicting even for me in the place in my life right now. I'm constantly going, God, what do you want to do? But then I'm kind of like sit back. It's like, then yesterday, I was just like, I got to sit back for a minute and like kind of like look around what's happening. Things are happening, but they're not like happening like, God, what are we doing?
The way you see it or the way you want it.
Exactly. So God lines it all up. He confirms by the leading of the Spirit as you're in the Word. He confirms for you to be in the band. And then so what happened from there? You guys are writing?
we just started writing, pretty much, and then told the other two guys in the band that it was a deal, and we just started writing songs, having fun. But my heart was from the beginning was like, I didn't know what I was doing. This was something new, to be behind this mic and in front of a crowd. But at the time, I really was just grateful that I was getting to know who Jesus was, and that I was feeling it at the time, And
yeah, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
So as you, because I love the way you talk about Jesus. So when you started discovering who Jesus was, from not being a Christian to all of a sudden you start reading the red print and the stories.
Yeah.
What was your take on this man they call Jesus?
Again, I knew the hits and the stories, you know what I mean, from going to youth group here and there or a camp here and there. But I always just thought I was just doing it because it was good to do, you know what I mean? Or even at the time, maybe it was what my mom wanted me to do, but now that she was gone, it was more personal. And so now I was responsible for my walk with God, how much time I spend with the Lord, how much time I talk to him. And I wanted to know who the Jesus of the Bible was, not this kind of westernized American, white, blue-eyed, Jesus.
And that's what you see, like when you're on tour and stuff. You see this white
still,
westernized.
Yeah, I have a problem. I mean, you look at it in culture. In culture, they see Jesus as this, American. You know what I mean? White, blue-eyed, conservative, Republican, all these things. And then even if they go even past that, they see it as this kind of hypocritical. What's the crusader? You know what I mean? They just don't have this picture of Jesus, and even as a kid, I would see like the guys on TV, and they say, send in $1,000 and your life will change, or then Jesus will bless you, and you know what I mean? All these prosperity type things, and
all that
it's just confusing. It's confusing to a kid who's like, dude, I just. It's just when the gospel is simple, where just Jesus came to love you, forgive you, and set you free. And
it's confusing to society. People are confused
religion.
by all this stuff.
They're confused by religion, and mostly they're confused by people that say, "Oh, dude, I am a Christian," and then it has nothing to do with Jesus. So, and that happens because we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and I've lived kind of. Especially being in the secular world, I've lived with that kind of burden on my shoulders where it's like, man, I don't want to mess up because someone's watching me. I don't want to stumble anybody, or, then you realize like, dude, don't put your eyes on me, man. I'm so not perfect, but that's why it's a journey.
And that's why I was asking you, is because like here you are, you're reading about who the Jesus is the Bible, but then you're seeing all the stuff on TV that the charismania and the selling the holy water and
no way,
give
dude.
$1,000 and your God's gonna bless you 1,000-fold.
And those people are going to be judged,
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah,
and we really just read the Bible, see what Jesus did with those kind of people in the Bible. But now here you are with all that being said, and then now God's pulling you into the mainstream. And you're dealing with, people are looking at you now as a Christian. So they're looking at the baggage from TV, but then they're looking at you. So the way you're conducting your life, the way you're trying to conduct your life, because we're all sinners, saved by grace, obviously. And God, we all have different convictions as well. That's the one thing that is so, it's like, because I was talking to my neighbors the other day, and they were asking about birth control or what do you think about in vitro or this and that, if God doesn't, and they just really realize like so many people have so many different views,
so many topics
and so many stances, and everyone thinks they have the right stance.
Right.
Not my neighbors. They weren't like judging or anything, but they were just kind of asking these questions. But here you are now. You're in the mainstream in this band.
Yeah.
And how is that for you to navigate through that atmosphere, being a Christian, and knowing like how the world thinks of Christians, but yet who you read about in the Bible, Jesus?
Yeah, it was a learning lesson. I never thought, even once we got in this band, it was more just so like, dude, I just thought we were gonna play keg parties where all my friends were at. So it's like, if I'm in this band screaming, about Jesus or about love or whatever God's done in my life, I figured somebody's gonna listen. So once we got our first show outside San Diego, and then then all of a sudden it happened that we can go outside the state, and then we jumped on a little tour here and there. So things just started to happen. but then once we got signed to Atlantic, obviously years later,
you guys blew up.
then it was a different thing. All of a sudden now, you're definitely in the public eye. You're on TV or in magazines. You're networking with all these people in the business, and so you're. And at the same time, it's always in the back of my mind. I don't want to mess up, man.
Dude, I know the pressure, huh?
It's pressure, dude.
The pressure.
Because then I remember getting to a point where it's like a lot of things happen where it's like, not that you don't care anymore, but you're like, you don't care. You're just like,
I know.
You're like, dude, I'm trying to live my life the best I can. And, but not even through all my walk through even the industry is like, it's never changed that, I would always take the time if someone said, hey, dude, can I talk to you about Jesus or can you pray for me? It was like, if anything, that was the best part of a lot of that stuff because I knew that's why I was here. I wasn't here because I thought I was a great singer or front man or I want to be in a band. Even now, I look for it. Almost 30 years later, I still look for the opportunities, whether it's, I could be walking to sound check and if a kid's outside and he's like, hey, dude, can I talk to you for a minute? It's like, I want that opportunity. That way it makes all this, it makes it make sense.
I've seen it over and over. And I've talked about it. We've talked about you on the show when you've been absent many times about how, we'll be on tour and everyone's on the bus doing their thing or whatever. And then you're off and there's like a line to, whatever. It could be like 10 people. Yeah. But 10 people, when they want to talk to you about deep, gnarly stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's a long time. That's like, an all-nighter.
Yeah, you're talking 6 hours.
Because you don't want to tell them, I got to go.
You're talking 6 hours of like counseling. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a lot of people. 3 people. When I have like a couple people lined up, I'm like, oh, dang, this is going to be, this is going to be a minute. Yeah. And to take that time, and when people start telling you those real stuff. Oh, yeah. But I've seen you do it over and over, talking to people, praying with people, and just doing that Jesus ministry. It's that model. Jesus went from town to town, village to village. You're doing the only thing you're doing is you're doing it in a bus and you're playing music, and then you are doing the messy ministry Jesus model. But during that time, we're gonna go to break in like 10 minutes. But before that time, I want you to kind of talk about this stuff. You're out there. You're a Christian. You're not in a Christian band. You're a Christian in a band, and you're writing about what God's doing in your life. You don't have to have a Christian band. Everyone likes to label everything. They want to oh, he's Christian actor. Or he's a Christian.
They think it gives them more legitimacy when actually it doesn't really.
Yeah, people want the titles. It's not. You're a believer.
I want you to be good at what you do. If you're gonna fix my car, I don't want to see the fish on your card. I want you to fix my car the way, because you're a great mechanic. I don't want to give you my work because you say you love God. It's like, dude, just be known by your actions and be known by your gift.
Yeah, without the title, my question to you would be, do people call, if you didn't have your title, Christian, would people call you a Christian plumber? Would people call you a Christian?
No, that's absurd. I think that's absurd.
Let me see your life.
Yeah, you can say it for a band, but if it's like, dude, you're a secretary, you're just, you're being excellent, you're loving God, everything you're doing is unto God. It's like, you don't have to be called a Christian this or that, Yeah,
they want the titles.
Yeah.
So, okay, when you're going through all this stuff, there was kind of a little backlash, or not a backlash. I would say there was more of like the judgmental Christians were coming against you, as they always do. People that are whenever you want to do something for Christ in the world, and you're actually relevant with culture, not 10 years behind as like most of the Christian industry.
Right.
When you're relevant in like 2021 and you're actually doing ministry and you're in the world, all of a sudden you got all these haters that are like, they're not Christians. Well, what are they doing? They're on tour with these bands and this and that and this whole thing. And how was that? I know you've talked about it before, but how was that you going through this? You're literally going, God's called me here.
Yeah.
You're out there. You're doing what we were just talking about, but then you're getting this backlash. How'd you feel about all that?
It was, here I am when it first started, kind of in this band. I'm just learning what it means to walk with God, and I feel like, dude, I feel good. Like He's going to use my life, or there's a reason. And then not only that, I feel like, okay, I said the sinner's prayer. I'm going to join this awesome, great family that loves God and be a part of something awesome and holy. And then the moment
awesome and holy,
as a 19-year-old, you're like, hey, this will be cool. Be a part of a community that loves God
totally.
and is feeling the way I'm feeling, excited. Yep. They're ready to go to war.
Yeah, and we're on the same team.
We're all on the same team. And then the moment you kind of meet this community. and then instantly it's not your story or like let me see where this person's heart is. It's like, oh, you have tattoos. Oh, your band's a little heavy. Oh, your friends are this. It's all these things.
Because you guys were like the only ones with tattoos back then in the Christian world.
That's it. That's just it. It's like we weren't a part of the Christian world. We were in the hardcore scene, the punk scene, the underground scene, just doing our thing. And we're playing these shows with skinheads and we're playing with everybody possible. These crazy parties, crazy underground things, and then believing all that there's this community of believers behind us. Just you were popping the Christian bubble. Yeah. But see, at the time, I didn't even know that's what it was. It's like, but it's like we said before, like where God does things. I remember we were playing all these clubs, boys and girls clubs, parties, all these things. We're building up a name in San Diego.
Yeah.
And the first time we get asked to play a kind of a churchy Christian outreach venue, they stopped us on the first song and said that this was not of God. So that at that point it was like, dude, okay. We're getting known in San Diego, playing all these clubs, bars everywhere, and they're digging the sound, they're digging our band. But the first time we do a Christian thing, they're like, "This is not right.
This is not of God."
So again, I wasn't angry at it.
Yeah.
I just was like, "Oh, you know what? We're not supposed to be here."
Yeah, confirmation.
And it wasn't even until later that you did see that there were bands that called themselves Christian bands. There was a scene, and it was like, and even though when we would play with these bands and kind of enter this scene, it wasn't a place we were ready to lay our heads. It was like, dude, we play wherever they ask us to play. We're not, we're not using the name of Jesus either to hype up my band. Because if anything, the scene that we came from is like, that's lame. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's flat out.
Oh, yeah,
You're a Christian, or you talk about Jesus, that's lame. The only reason why they would say, oh, those guys are Christians, because we were so open with the faith. Lyrics, and we would talk about it on stage, and so
interviews too, right? You guys
were always. Yeah. But at the time, there was a straight edge scene. There was like there was a Krishna scene in the hardcore movement. Everybody believed in something. That's kind of what made the scene, where it's like you're screaming about what you believe in. So we kind of took it the same motto, like, well, why can't I scream about Jesus? I didn't know there would be backlash from the world or Christians. Mm-hmm. It's just something I was learning at the time. Mm-hmm. So then you start to learn, like, oh, okay, so here, because to me, Jesus just saved my life. He's doing something awesome in my heart and mind and soul, and then why wouldn't the world want? They're dying to hear this news that they're dying to hear what I have to say to them, and all of a sudden, the world is like, keep your Jesus to yourself, and then the Christians are like, you don't really know who Jesus is. Yeah. So it was confusing.
Yeah.
But all the while, still trusting God, saying, dude, well, we're gonna play wherever the door's open.
And what's rad is, as you say that, I remember that time when we were in Cornerstone for that festival. Where was that? Ohio or something?
Bushnell, Illinois.
We were out there, and I remember this guy came up to me, or us, saw you, and came up to you, because you just shaved your dreads. So they were like, "Is that Sonny or what?" It's kind of about a year after or something like that. And he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I got held up at like gunpoint by some skinheads."
Yeah.
And I don't know what he did. He did something where they wanted to kill him.
It was at a club where he popped something happened. They kidnapped him.
They wanted to kill. Yeah, they kidnapped him. They wanted to kill him.
They
beat him up and then they put him in the trunk, and they were talking about they were going to go. Basically,
they were driving him out to
go murder him, right?
I remember that.
And then all of a sudden, he ended up, I think, in the front seat or in the back seat or something.
No, he was in the trunk. I just was talking about this story recently.
Okay.
I told the guys, and I thought I already told them this story, but they never heard it. He was in the trunk. They threw him in the trunk. They were taking him out to the woods to kill him. They were bumping Southtown on a tape.
Okay.
The moment they opened up the trunk and they were gonna kill him, he was like, wait, Southtown, P.O.D. I love P.O.D. too. And then he was trying to relate to them with like, dude, we're the same people, like, because at the time nobody really who else knew about P.O.D. We were such an underground thing.
Yes.
And it was like he related to them on P.O.D. and they literally took him out as he kind of just did his spiel. And then I think they untied him or whatever, and then just let him go.
That was it. That was. I couldn't remember if he was in the backseat of the trunk, but it was Southtown, and that literally got him out. And he's like, dude, that saved my life, and then that led him to the Lord.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, dude, I hear those stories though all the time about your music. I mean, I've been with you so many times at music festivals or concerts or just wherever people see you and recognize you. They like, hey man, your music, man.
Yeah.
I know you're singing about something, man, or whatever. Right. It's just the lyrics are there, and that just goes to prove it doesn't matter what and this is for the listeners. Like, if God's lead you to do something, you just got to go do it, and you can't worry about. I call them keyboard gangsters, or actually Head made that name up. Keyboard gangsters, where they're typing stuff on blogs or Instagram or whatever, or even when I've seen people come up to you and to me, and you call them the buttman. It's also in my book, Kill the Noise. When I quote you, calling people the buttman. Hey man, Sonny. Hey dude, I love what you're doing, but those tattoos,
everything,
but the music, it's like the buttman. I do quote you a couple times in my book, for
they
sure.
could always do it better. That's the thing.
Yeah, and you have these people that come up here, and what they do is it's like the enemy. The enemy uses these people to come in and discourage the believers, and they like to fight amongst themselves. When really the enemy is like murdering and killing and getting people addicted to pornography and drugs, and literally killing people and taking them to hell.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have the buttmen, the squad of the buttmen that are everywhere coming in and just trying to discourage people that are actually reaching these people. And your music is proof. When I say ministry is what God has called you to do, that ministry, the voice that you have to the culture and through the lyrics, it is impacting people, and people are getting saved over and over again. And if God's called you to do something, don't get discouraged by these buttmen. I'm telling you right now. They ain't done nothing.
Exactly.
They ain't gonna do nothing. The majority of these buttmen that I've seen and talked to, buttmen and women, they haven't done nothing. The majority of them, one of these buttmen is basically a woman, was like, she got saved. She used to go to Korn concerts, probably your concerts too, got saved, went to Bible school, then to seminary, and now she's arrived. And now she just comes against everyone that does everything. She forgot where she came from and the importance of being back in that community and actually letting your light shine and having conversations and being there. The buttman, man. Don't be a buttman. Yeah. Hey, listen, we're going to go to break in a minute. I do want to plug a couple things. First of all, talk about this really quick. You got something going on here. Those shows. This is
a 20th year of anniversary of our biggest record, Satellite. And we're doing a re-release later on this year, but we finally did a concert series stream. So we recorded 3 shows at Petco. A lot of people say they think it's live, but it's not. It's not live. We did 3 sets in one day, and we're gonna spread them out. So starting in May 17th or something. I don't know.
3 sets in one day. You're too old for this,
bro. I'm still hurting, and not playing in a year.
I'm still hurt. Oh my god.
Yeah, dude.
That is
cramping
crazy.
up on stage the whole time. Yeah, it was fun though. It was so nice because the Petco Park, they had the stadium lights on.
Were people there?
No.
Oh, so it's just a full it's like a
all film crew.
Yeah.
I mean, family and friends were kind of hanging out, goofing around.
I didn't get invited, so it wasn't all the family. Shannon's in the studio. Your wife. Zach went, so. I was like at my house. I'm like, well, I'm at home. I don't got nothing going on.
Dude,
I don't know. I'm just joking. I know.
I literally was in the rehearsal studio 9 days prior, from 10 to 7 with the guys trying to learn songs we hadn't even played in 20 years. So it was a wild 2 weeks.
That is.
But
gnarly.
it was stressful, but it was fun.
It's all behind you now.
Yeah, it's all
dude.
behind
That's
me.
Crazy. 3 shows.
Yeah. So we're wrapping that stuff up, and then they're gonna be streaming sometime in May.
Okay, so I just reposted it on my story.
Cool.
We'll get that on the Whosoevers too. So did you give them the dates? May 13th, May 27th, and June 10th are the 3 premieres?
Yeah. So the first one will be the Satellite record. Second one will be Fundamental Elements of Southtown, and the third set is Rarities. And those are songs that we did from our independent records to just throughout our career.
Well, we're gonna be live streaming from the Ries house. I got my daughters there, dude. My son loves DJ Marshmello.
Nice.
I'm just doing music festivals for him.
Yeah.
And they just love it. So my son wakes up, he goes, Marshmello. I go, wait, Marshmello or Monster Trucks? And he starts bouncing his head. Marshmello. So it's either Monster Trucks or Marshmallows.
Sick.
Hey, we're gonna be going to break in a few minutes, or actually a couple seconds. I want to plug the Kill the Noise book, killthenoisebook.com. It's my book. It talks about how the Whosoever started. It talks about my story of faith. It's a faith builder. It's a tool to increase. You read it, Sonny.
Mm-hmm.
It's raw.
Yeah.
It's raw format, and it'll encourage you guys. You can buy it wherever books are sold, killthenoisebook.com, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Target, Walmart, wherever it's all sold. Buy it, purchase it, get it, give it to somebody. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Peace.
More of The Ryan Ries Show coming up. Post your questions at Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, and or Facebook. Now, back to the Ryan Ries Show.
All right, dude, we're back. So let's plug that show one more time. So you got the show going on. You got the 3 albums with your band, P.O.D. You have May 13th, May 27th, and June 10th. And if you go to Sonny Whosoever on Instagram or P.O.D. website, what is it, payableondeath.com?
Yep.
Payabledeath.com. You can find it's a live stream, it's an announcement. The Ries family, we will be streaming it. Well, like I was saying, I want to introduce my kids to music and music festivals and just all these cool, sports, and I want to get them in that whole environment,
For sure. Dude.
So and they just love it. Like I was starting to show them music videos, and they're just like, because they're very limited on screen time. We have it's like 30 minutes a day, or I think now we do 30 in the morning and then, or 30 like after they do their first stuff, and then it's 30 in the evening, like after around dinner time. But I'm like, instead of watching cartoons, let me show them some music videos and different things.
Surf, all kinds of cool
Monster Trucks is a hit in our house. But I want to show them this stuff, and they're just like blown away because we've kept them away from screen time because we don't want to be stupid, right? So we're now, as we're showing them key things, like we have limited time, let's show them like cool things. that will get the creativity going. I think little Evelyn, she's like the little artistic, like
That's what's up.
she's
dude.
she's gonna do something. I don't know what. She's all into it. Like I showed her, I put on like some of the EDM music. She disappeared, came back she came back with like a rainbow, or no, what was it? Like it was like a rainbow mermaid swimsuit, a beach ball, goggles on her head, and some like crazy boots.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's like she's ready for the music festival. I don't know what the heck's going on. She just has it in her blood. And then my son's I guess Crystal's like, he's mini you. He just like you. Anyway, so let's get we'll be streaming the P.O.D. event. I can't wait. This is gonna be actually their first like rock like music to hear, you know, because they've been doing the EDM thing. Yeah. But now we're gonna introduce them to this. So this is gonna be dope.
Heck yeah, man.
All right. Before the break, we were just talking about how here you are. You're a Christian. You're in a band. P.O.D., which stands for Payable on Death. Which, dude, that name is too hard. It's too hard. Payable on Death, because it's always like P.O.D. But man, that name is just too sick when you say it out. Yeah. And you're a Christian. You're out there, and your lyrics are impacting people. You're hearing people's lives being changed. What else? But then the Christians. Like the not all Christians, because there's a lot of Christians that love you and pray for you, but there's just like the sect of the Buttman that we were talking about. And if you want to know more about that, you can read the book. It explains a little bit more. But just these people that are always coming against.
They discourage. Like
they're discouragers.
They discourage you. You know, and we've walked through with Head and those kind of guys where they just always discourage. Like, you know, you're never doing it right. You know what I mean? They the way they think you're supposed to do it. But it's kind of like you said, when you know you have that call, and it's like, you just have to trust God that I'm doing the right thing. You don't always get the confirmations. You know, we would play, you know, it's like when you play bars or clubs, and you know, you're kind of doing what you believe you're supposed to do, and then, you know, it's not like you're doing an altar call or people are coming forward and falling on the ground and giving their life to the Lord, but you're trusting that you're planting seeds and it means something. And, you know, in almost 30 years of doing this, I'll still meet a guy at a show, and he'll be like, dude, I saw you guys in San Diego, you know, 25 years ago. I was sitting in the back of this club, and you guys planted seeds in my life. And then he'll go on to say all the amazing things that God has done in his life so far. So it's always a confirmation that, dude, you were doing what you're supposed to be doing, you know. But even like when there's a lot of albums that we've done, you know, when it could have been some of the darkest times, even my own spiritual walk. Yeah. And then always thinking, dude, is God using this? Is like, are these lyrics right?
It's those dry seasons.
It's just, what is it? And then again, you'll so many people you'll meet, and you're like, dude, this song, it spoke to my life, and then I know it had to have been God, because I was searching again, you know, during that time. But God, you know, he still uses it. You know,
I want to talk about two things. One thing you said is, you know, you're saying that one guy was in the back of the bar. You played. Music's powerful. Lyrics hit. Yeah. It's the same. It's just like when you play worship. It's the Holy Spirit just works through the vessel, right? It's the same way that it doesn't matter what kind of music you write, but that guy got seeds. But also, I'm going to quote Lacey Sturm. She wasn't even a Christian. She was in the back, very back at some stadium you guys were playing at, in the very top back in the nosebleed. And she says when you came out and started playing, she felt like this presence, like just give her a hug. Yeah. She just felt love.
I love that story, dude.
And that's the Holy Spirit, is like when you're vessels of Christ and you show up, he just does. His presence just comes. So you don't have to worry.
But that's the thing. It takes the pressure and the burden off you. I think what happened when Christians were coming against us at the time, it kind of pushes you to do what God's not calling you to do, because then you're trying to please them instead of pleasing God. So it was like, you know, when we go up there, you feel like you have to say something, you feel like you have to do something. So it's very contrived, it's very led by someone who's standing there judging you, when God is saying, dude, go up there, play the music I gave you, love the people, and dude, let me do the rest. And to me, that's easier, because it's like I don't have the pressure of, you know, trying to sound right or say the right words or being this minister or, you know, whatever. Yeah. It's like, dude, God just gave us music to play. But even now, every time we go up, you know, or say we played Ozfest or we do all this stuff, I know I'm not going to go up and give an altar call. Like,
Why not?
Just, get booed off the stage.
You'll never play the music festivals ever again.
Is, a wise guy once told us before when he saw us playing the clubs, he's like, dude, I see you guys are picking up this momentum in San Diego, you're playing all these places. But he also saw how very aggressive we were. And the time we had a song like abortion is murder, it's very hardcore in your face, a lot of stuff. We would say things that were very kind of militant about our faith. And, we're still learning. And this guy, he told us, he said, man, you guys are playing in places that I'll never get to, and most Christians will never get to. And he said, kind of view it as you're a guest and they're inviting you into their home. If you come down and burn the place down, you'll never, ever get invited again. So we saw that. So he just said, if I can encourage you in one thing, like, just lead in love. Because we came in, it was like, we always felt like we had to fight for Jesus, or defend Jesus when that's not the case.
I think that goes with all Christians.
With everybody, or you feel like whatever, you want to prove a point, statement, whatever. But the more we try to lead in love, and that mentality of like, you know what, dude, I'm thankful that they're letting me play this club and this bar, and I do hope they invite me back. Yeah. So what we need to do is be excellent in the music. Yep. We need to be cool. You don't come in there and just say for the sake of burning it down for the gospel's sake, and then it's like, okay, that's the last time you'll ever be there. So that's not wise.
That's burning bridges.
Yeah. So we learned, and we learned through records. If you see the progression of records, it's just the way we said things, and the way we tried to be more universal with it, so that people would listen to it first, not just say, oh, that's that Christian band. It's not for me. I don't want to hear their music. So we were very smart in the way we did it,
I think that's a wise thing just for everyone that's listening now, is even when you go to wherever you go, like, we're touring skate parks.
Yeah.
Anywhere we go, any place we go that's not in the church, you're there in their environment, especially at a skate park. It's a scene. It's like going to you
have to speak their language.
Yeah, it's like most skate parks are in inner city. There's a lot of drugs and different things. So it's like you're getting all the rebels of the rebels there, all the outcasts that don't give a dang about nothing, and they're gonna size you up. And when you go in, they gotta see that you're the you're the real deal. And before they're even to hear you, and then when you have that opportunity, you have to actually show that you care and you want to hang out with them. It's not you're just coming to close a deal. And then when all the barriers break down, like we do at the skate park, then you're able to share with them, but in love. But if you don't go in there and share with love, you're not going to get invited back to these music festivals. And I've seen you at all. I mean, we've been in Australia on tour. We've been all over the United States, in South America, different places. But you have a place in that that's where God has you in the mainstream. And I've seen roadies, I've seen band members, they'll pull you aside, they come talk to you because you've been in there with love. And even if you've never ever did altar calls from stage or anything like that, let's just say you never talked about Jesus your whole life from stage, okay? But God has had you there. Yeah. But the amount of ministry that you've been doing backstage is with individuals alone. And I'm not saying you haven't, but I'm just saying with the amount of ministry you've done with individuals alone and people, if the Bible says all heaven rejoices when one gets saved, if that's always our quote in the Christian world, well, if just one gets saved, all the angels are going to rejoice, So back on people that are like, well, what if he's never done any of this? I'm not saying you haven't. Yeah. But dude, you've had a lot of ones. Yeah. You've had thousands of ones.
And I that's again when I know that it's real, because I'm not beating anybody over the head, or I don't have an agenda, but even, when we go back to scripture and we're talking about learning about Jesus, whenever I read about Jesus, he was the king of relationships. You know what I mean? He wasn't just solo. It's like he built relationships, and in those relationships, you build trust. And so, especially, for me being in the rock world, most of these guys they've already fed up. They've had their bad experiences. They were raised in Christian homes, and they want nothing to do with God. So you kind of have to flip it on them. It's like, well, you know what? You've already heard it all. You probably know more scripture than me, because you were forced to study it when you were a kid. You know what I mean? Living in your strict Christian home. So now it's like they already know that I'm a believer. It's like, now how much can I just love them, be their friend, not be judgmental, and just see that they really care. And then once they know you, in which they do. I built relationships with rock stars for almost 30 years. Yeah. And then they're the ones who are like, we're brothers now. And then, my Jesus has more credibility in a way where it's like, okay, I want to know your Jesus, Sonny. I don't want to know the Jesus that I thought or that I grew up on, or, you know, this whack dude, you know, that's saying this or that about Jesus. I don't trust that, but I trust you. And so tell me about your Jesus. And those, again, I don't knock on their door. Hey, or their bus door. Hey, can I tell you about Jesus?
Yeah. They just come because they see your life.
Because it's like, dude, we love each other and we're friends.
Yeah.
And they know I genuinely care about them.
Exactly.
You know, so.
And I've seen that over and over and over again. And it's such an amazing thing. And that's why it goes back to, like, we can't go carry our lives about what everyone else is saying, because no one knows the backstory.
Yeah.
No one knows what's going on in people's lives behind the scenes, what's happening, you know. And you know, I've talked about many artists that we know of how, man, I've seen God use these guys, and the stuff that you don't see, because you know what?
Yeah.
The bottom line, when you're backstage and you're talking to people, there's no camera.
Yeah, no one's gonna see that.
You're not gonna be filming these private events, you know what I mean, that are happening, these cool little stories. And when you relate it to Jesus, he was there. That famous story of Jesus hanging out with the tax collectors, you know, being there. Then you have the Pharisees. They brought the girl that was in adultery, the sinner, you know. Well, Jesus, what do you say?
Yeah.
You know, he's like, well, whoever doesn't have sin, cast the first stone, you know. And then he just basically, what does he tell her? Go and sin no more. It's like, he didn't have this harsh, you know, this thing on sinners. He was very graceful, and he would, just to be clear, he'd be like, go and sin no more. But like, God loves you. Like, I'm not coming to judge you. And the scripture says that Jesus didn't come to judge the world. He came to save the world. So if we come with that, if we got to always, as Christians, keep that mentality, that we always have to remember that we're nothing. We're sinners saved by grace. And when I start getting judgmental, if there's like thought process starts happening, or I start thinking I'm too cool for school, or like, God, man, Ryan, you're you know, Satan puts those thoughts, you're doing pretty good stuff. Like, like you know how I ground myself? If that stupid thought ever comes in my mind, and I'm just being transparent because we're all humans, and these little stupid, I call them these fiery darts, or these little footholes that the enemy wants to get in, because he wants to get you thinking you're dope. You're not dope, right? And what happens is, I always think about that time when I'm in the hotel room, or not in the hotel room. I was thinking about that time I was at my friend's house, which is now dead. He died from a drug overdose. And I was at my friend's, I was at his house, and I had money, house, car. I mean, I was living my dream at circa, like, everything I ever wanted. I wasn't a millionaire, but I was living like a millionaire because all the company was paying for everything. You know what I mean? Like, we had the millionaire lifestyle. And, but dude, I was there, and I was drunk. And I was empty. And I was high, and I was empty. Still, it's like all these things that people do to fill themselves, to fill like that, because we have this emptiness in us. Yeah. And I remember just sitting there, and I was like, I'm empty. I'm not high enough. I'm not drunk enough. And I was like, well, what do you have? Do you got anything else? And he's like, I got crack and heroin. And I just put it together, and I just started smoking it. And I'm just like, here I am in this place. And I remember just thinking, dude, I think I even shot up something too. I think I shot up some. Oh no, I didn't smoke it. I shot up heroin and coke. That's what it was. So here I am, drunk, high, shooting a coke and heroin in one shot. Like, that's like, people don't do that. You don't do that, And I'm just thinking to myself, God, I'm so empty right now, and I could just die, and I just don't care about nothing. And that's. And the reason why I say all that is because anytime I start thinking I'm something, I always go back to that moment, because that's that grounding moment that I realize I'm nothing, dude. You know who Ryan Ries is? I'm that guy. I'm that guy. For sure. That's who I am. That's everything I did in my life, and everything that led me to this moment that I became that guy. That's where Ryan Ries, my heart, will get me. The Bible says our heart is deceitfully wicked. Who knows it? God knows it. And that's what always grounds me, is I always take myself to that moment. And also, you know, but the side note of that is, you know, fast forwarding to when I give my life to Christ, God forgives me my sins. And then I end up in that moment in the dirt in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I'm saying that prayer, and I'm like, God, here I am. Now, this is me when I'm fully repentant, and I'm just like, God, here I am. I'm so sorry. I'm nothing. How would you use this dirty sinner this guy that you saved, what would you do with my life? And you were there with us. You were in the garden too, saying a prayer in the dirt somewhere else.
Doing my own thing with God.
Yeah. And God did something cool with me, and he's doing something cool. And there you are, you're in the garden, and you call those prayers dangerous prayers. We have like 9 minutes left. Tell us about these dangerous prayers in closing, because we're going to continue the show. I want to do another show with you, and I want to continue because you've been on tour, touring again with the Whosoevers, and doing your thing. You're the co-founder. So we're going to talk about that in the second show for this next weekend. But tell me about some, because we're just kind of closing here. Like, tell me about these dangerous prayers that you make, how they've impacted your life to where you're at now.
I mean, just going back to what you were saying real quick. I think even for me, you know, when God found me and I was outside this hospital, it was all before any music. It was before any success, any type of celebrity, and so I don't identify myself with any of that, even though that was awesome and changed my life in some radical ways. But I always see myself in that parking lot of the hospital, just saying, God, if you're real, come into my life.
In the dirt, basically.
Yeah, in a dirty parking lot, and I'll never not be that guy, and I don't. That's the guy I want to be, you know, and that's I think how when the Whosoevers formed, same thing, taking a break from music and saying, God, I don't identify with this music, you know, with rock and roll. It's like I just want to be that kid that was 19 that was so dependent upon you and so desperate for you that I don't forget that, you know. But then being in a rock and roll band again, great times, all this good stuff. It's easy to forget that person because now everybody treats you like a rock star. So, you know, you go through your moments of pride and we can see back to that person. Jesus, I need you. I'm lost without you. And that'll keep you grounded, you know. But
I think about what you're saying, that all the stories in the Bible of the Gospels, you know, the pride and arrogance. You got Peter, you know, pull out the knife, put off the guy's ear. You know, don't worry, Jesus, I'll never leave you. And that's what all that stuff's in the scriptures. Because we're all human, and we go through these highs and lows. Great intention, great intention. But then the end comes in, put the pride in there, and that's the how we have to constantly keep navigating through life with Christ. God raises us up, he brings us down, he takes us into those desert experiences, but then in those desert experiences, so much fruit is produced. He feels so like, I feel like I'm dying. Like, what the heck am I doing here? God, can you even use this? Like, you can use it right now in this desert season, but all these, man, I went through a lot of this. But this is how God does it. You know, you
But we say we're not perfect, and that's what humbles us. For a second, God, you haven't figured out this point in life, but you're still gracious enough to walk the pace, which is beautiful.
Things, and that's the thing is like I'll tell people because people are like, oh, what do you think about this guy? And I'm just like, guys, everyone's in a different place to walk. Like, I'm in a different place in my walk with my dad.
Yeah.
You're a Christian way longer than me. I mean, you're in a different place. Ed's in a different place. Macy's in a different place. And we all come from different places. So there's, the gospel is saying the words there. It's a lamp to our feet, leading guide this Holy Spirit. But I'm this crazy thing. I got this horse. We're praying for the horse. We're praying for the little condo, the little back house. So these things for she got them all, and she's like, "Oh man, dude, this church is amazing. I'm getting fed. I'm being used. I got I got my condo. I got my horse and everything." And she's like, "Hell, yeah." And I'm excited for her. That's our home. I'm like, "Go." But she's like talking about how rad of a season she's in, and I'm in this desert experience, and I'm looking in my mind like,
I'm so happy for you.
I'm so happy that you're doing great.
I'm glad you,